Time actually was, I don't know if it was a Fabrengen, but like no sichas, just a Maimer, that the Rebbe said, welcoming the Orchim that came for Tishrei from Yisrael and other places. I think they chartered a plane. And this was a Maimer said in their honor. All right, we are up to in their honor, our honor. We're up to page 314, Valdarzo Lamaila, yeah. He finished saying, he identified, it's all to explain Bakshu Panas, Panecha Havaya Vakesh. Seek my face, I seek your face, Hashem. So he explained that there are, right, two levels of the Pnimius. There's Chitzonius, of course. Chitzonius Halev, that's the level of the heart that is directly related to the emotions, that gives rise to the emotions, and that's his boneness with intellect and understanding levels of godliness that can be apprehended by the intellect, namely godliness invested in creation in all of its levels. Then there's two levels of Pnimius. Two levels of Pnimius Alev, which he calls Ha'odas Nekudas Alev. That is a Pnimius. It's transcendent, relatively speaking, but it's Shaykhis to Chitzonius, and the parallel to that Yisevev Kalam. The parallel to Chitzonius Alev is Malak Kalam and Shem Alikim. The parallel to Pnimius Alev, Ha'odas Nekudas Alev, is Yisevev Kalam, and even though the whole Arichis, Sevev is transcendent, but still that's a Shaykhis to creation. Effortless, as it were, without being tailored to, defined by that which it produces, but still produces it. It's Davish to producing creation on a level where he is the producer of creation. But still a creator. Not an invested creator like Shem Elikim, but a creator nonetheless. And then the Pnimius, that's the Panecha Havaya, that's the Ein Sof, namely with Eibish's beyond created period. The parallel in the heart is Chitzonius Alev, Ha'odas Nekudas Alev, and then the Etzem Alev, which he calls, the words are Atzmus Nekudas Alev. Then he explained in terms of Avodah, connecting to Parshas Kiseitze and the whole Muhammad with the Yetzer Hara. So when the Avodah is Mitzchat Chitzonius Alev only, it's a constant battle. It's a constant battle. The Nefesh Habamis pulls one way, its Midas pull one way, and the Shalikus Midas pull the other way, and it's a constant battle. However, Al Rebbe says that that's im oivecha. When it's pitting mind to mind and heart to heart, that's with your enemy. Alivecha is when the Ha'odas Nekudas Halev, this is still not the Etzem Mamish, is revealed. That's a much deeper commitment. The Kudas Halev, it's not based on rational and seichel and the current mood. It's a non-negotiable state of being. So if it's not negotiable, it comes from the Kudas Halev, then there's a transformation. The transformation, however, is only in Machshava Dibur U'Maaseh. That's also an incredible transformation. It means there's no battle anymore at the behavioral level. Not going there, not negotiable, and it's not a discussion. So if it's not a discussion, it's not a discussion. But actually transform the Nefesh Habamis itself, its very desires, its very being, it's a pleasure seeker. It's not a bad fellow. terrible people. We just want to enjoy ourselves. That's all we want. We want to be happy. So to address and transform that the gishmak and the tainuk and the happiness and everything is all in the kus and nothing else, that comes from the gilui of the etzem alev. Wonderful levels we're talking about here, but let's get the level straight and then we'll work on some application. First, let's understand what we're talking about, at least in the technical sense, right? So, atzmus nakudas alev, that's yechida, bevur leslahu. There's no, the yid as the shadow by klippa. The shadow doesn't have a shadow. Shadow 1 is higher. Shadow 2 is yechida. Leslahu, there's no counter. It comes to the etzem alev. It comes even to Oris Nekudas alev, which is like a rotz and this firm resolve. The Shabbos also has a firm resolve. There is some kind of, not a direct battle, but a melodic battle. But when the etzem Nekudas alev is revealed, this affects the transformation, explained in the Yukim and the Psukim. V'ra'isa, it's not a struggle. You see her. Who's the Eishes Yefastoya? That's the Neshama. She emerges. You have to take her out. She just naturally emerges with the entire being, and the Nefesh Baham is transformed. All right, so just to get the Nekuda here, we need to have before us going forward. So the 3 levels. We spoke now about the heart. And now to translate that, the 3 levels, Chitzonis, right? And then Oris Nekudas alev and the Etzem Nekudas alev. So let's continue now, 3:14. I have to tell you, I'm a little bit, I think I'm gonna, not I think, I don't know, sure, but I'm gonna offer what I, understanding what you're saying. And like, not just now, but anytime you're welcome to offer, suggest another explanation. We'll see where my, I'll share what my difficulty is, but let's continue. Let's say the words first. Likewise, Lamailo. So the B'Shem Elikim, so Shem Elikim, that's Chitzonius, right? That's Chitzonius. That's Chitzonius means, remember how we defined Pnimius, right? Pnimius is very simple. Pnimius is unrelated to outside, the intrinsic self. Shem Elikim is all about the investor in creation, in otherness. Elikim means a lord, a judge. The very translation, implicit in the translation, is a governance over, lordship over creation.
But Pnimius has no relation to outside. That's
defined. It can choose to, but it's not defined by that. It's not its function. It's not its identity.
It needs it to sometimes actualize the Pnimius.
The whole avodah is to reveal the Pnimius outside, but the nature of Pnimius itself is unrelated to externalities. Pnimius is a level of velikus that's beyond creation and otherness. A Pnimi is a person who's not affected, molded by the environment. The whole avodah is affect the environment. And after the Pnimi can. And that's his avodah. And that's avodah means it's not his natural state. Natural state is human Eibishter. Eibishter says, no, you've got to change the world around you. And only he really is successful in that because he's a Pnimi. But if his whole identity is, I'm here to fix you, marginal and external success. And temporary. Yeah? So let's begin this here. So there is Ulamaila, the B'Shem Elikim, Efshaliyah is Shem Elikim itself. Through many tzimtzumim, yinika l'chitzonim. Right? Hashem Elikim is about Hashem's containment and gvul, tzimtzum. So through many tzimtzumim, There can be Yenika, nourishment to Chitzoinim. It means here the extraneous creation that doesn't know Hashem, Klippa. So Klippa, everything comes from Kedusha. So how do they exist? They exist through the tremendous Tzimtzumim on Shem Elikim, which is basically Hashem's creative investment. To the extent of bringing into existence and nourishing and allowing to exist, idolatry, that which denies God and defies Him. Actually, defy and then deny. You defy, at least it's a relationship. Deny, ignore is even worse. Okay, it's a fairly straightforward statement, yes. Now, will become a Mekomis, in light of that, which is explained in some places, he sends us to some Avov, which I didn't have to say for, I'll look at it up with Hashem. He says as follows. Shem Elikim, what Shem Elikim? Not merely is it the Mogi the sheath, the Nartik and the shield and Nartik the sheath, that conceals Shem Havaya, which means classically Shem Elikim is simply Keich HaGvul. Keli. Classically Shem Havaya is Oir. Gilui. That's classically. But he says no. Shem Elikim is not merely the Keich HaGvul, Ella Gam the Shem Havaya. Even Shem Havaya K'mei Nimshech when it's something like the Shem Elikim. When we say Shem Elikim, it only refer not merely to the concealing component, but Shem Elikim also includes the Likus, the revelation of the Likus, Shem Havaya, that's Nimshech and drawn in Shem Elikim. Liyis Makal and Ivroyim, to be a source of creation. Creation happens through both of these koiches, Shem Havaya and Shem Elikim.
That's more saying what Elikim is with Havaya, not what Elikim is.
So that's what he's saying. And that's what he's saying. Not
saying Elikim isn't just this, it's how Havaya is, but that's when it's merged with Havaya. It's not.
And that's what he's saying Shem Elikim is. It's not merely, it seems to me the pshat he's saying is, that Shem Elikim is not merely lack, heder, concealment. Shem Elikim also is godliness revealed, creative, revelatory godliness revealed in a limited way. That's also Shem Elikim. Okay, I'm not going to actually share with you my what's the ruminations here and reflections, but it'll probably just complicate matters unnecessarily. So, are we clear? What we just said now. This is l'chayr is what with what I just said now. We'll understand what he's going to say further. L'chayr. Okay, so what's the chidush? Al piyam will become makonos. What's explained in there is it's not like that. There's two separate koiches. There's oir and there is gvul and there's bli gvul. Oir and keli. Koicha, the power of God's revelation, the power of His containment and concealment. There are, it's true, but ultimately it's one God. So Shem Elikim doesn't simply mean, when we speak of Shem Elikim, we're not simply talking about the Keich HaGvul, we're talking about an awesome revelation of godliness. Shem Havaya, and it's one God and one Gilui. Shem Havaya revealed in a way that is filtered through Shem Elikim. Okay? This is Oir HaMamale, we're talking about Oir now. Gilui. That's also Nikr Elikim. So since we just established now that Elikim is not simply the concealing component, but Elikim includes the Gilui that is fused with it, that is a mocker for creation, so Yesh Loima, Shaldera Zeboir Mamala. Likewise, in Mamala, not so clear actually here, what's the Aldera Zeh? We just finished saying that's what it is, but I think the kvetchir is the Oir HaMamala. We just finished saying that Elikim is not merely the Gvul itself, but Elikim also means the Gili, the Oir, that's Nimshech in Shem Elikim, which he calls Olam Amale. The Yeshleimer that is likewise with Olam Amale, you just said it's Olam Amale. You understand what I'm asking? This little.
You say al Shem Havai is Nimshach Mitzatzim al Shem Elikim.
Yeah.
Be Makar then, right? Etc. The Yeshleimer al Derez of the Olam Amale, that the Olam Amale is through it is Nimshach the Eresevet. The Olam Amale is not like an independent thing, it's the same earth, there's one part.
How do you answer what I'm asking?
In the Malif al Derech Shem Elikim, it's the earth that comes out.
First of all, why is it al derech? It's a just different name for the same thing. Secondly, he just finished saying shebachlolu so olam amale. He just said this is olam amale, and that's called nikra likim yeshleimer shal derech ze olam amale. What's the yeshleimer where you just stated that elikim is oid? We understand the diak olam amale. There's a gilui here, but the gilui coming in a descriptive manner, but we're talking about a gilui and a koyach, a makar of nivroim. You just said that is elikim. So what is the yeshleimer shal derech ze olam amale? You just said that's olam amale. What?
The next word is the Mikelo. That says.
No, it doesn't. Look, it strengthens my question because he says that since the Yishav Shemelikim in brackets say to Mamala, I'm trying to simply understand what the difference between Elikim as he explained it and Olam Mamala. It's describing the same Gilu V'Likus with different language. That's all. So what does it mean? Not clear. The general point l'chayra is clear. So therefore, what? The Mekivan should continue. Mekivan she savas m'shem elikim re'edem amale b'derech islapshos. Since creation, not Shem Havai, not b'derech islapshos, but Shem Elikim, which means Havai and Nimshcha Shem Elikim. Olam Amale comes in a way, is tailored and invested and fused and responsible for all of the properties of creation in the most intimate way. Water behaves the way it does because Nimshach, or not Nimshach in water, responsible for water is Chesed with all of its properties and so on. So therefore, obviously, creation relative to this creative force that's tailored to it and responsible for it. So creation, therefore, has value relative to its creative force. Physical water in the face of chesed is valuable. It's the incarnate of chesed in a very, very physical and finite way. But it has value. This is chesed, this is chesed. And therefore, relative to this level of alikus, the bittul of creation cannot go beyond bittul hayesh. Cannot say I'm not anything. I'm something relative to my source. I look at my source and I see a reflection of me. My properties are an expression of the various spheres of Madrekes L'mayla. Batel b'metzias? Of course not. Because my creative force is somewhat me, but far grander. So the only bittul hayesh, I acknowledge I come from you. I owe my existence to you, but you are not beyond me entirely. So if it's a bittul hayesh, take a bittul. Lachin, efshe, the shtalshim is a yeshes mamash. As soon as the yesh is in the picture, then that can easily devolve into outright ego, mamash. To the point, to the point of completely ignoring, being oblivious to the source. Look at footnote 48. The lower unity, which the starting point is me, therefore you. I recognize I come from you. The Yoserak Bitla Yesh. Now, it's a tremendous achievement. But he warns there. It's very easy to fall from there, because if it's Yeshes, then it's a slippery slide to absolute absorption. And that's a very dangerous place to be. So, he's saying, in the face of Eidem Mamala, creation can only experience Bittul Yesh. However, the kavanah is, in order there shouldn't be any room for independence, yeshes, and the opposite of godliness. It's not going to happen through an appreciation of the divine creator, the divine artist, as he's invested in creation. He's an artist, and so am I. And sometimes I do my own work when it suits me. So in order to have a bittul, it's only when we recognize that Shem Elikim, as described here, is Miliyah Ha'orah, and the real source is Hashem's infinite revelation. And from that perspective, creation is not an investment by God, but simply a result of His will. There's no investure, there's no parallel between creator and created. He's infinite and we're finite. And realizing that, and that kind of appreciation engenders a true bittul where you recognize our true worthlessness. Bittul b'mitzias. There's still a third level to go. So bittul b'mitzias is a result of his abundantness. He's saying, in not Shem Elikim, but realize that Shem Elikim is Tzimtzum, and that the source really Shem Havaya. And that's really the creative force. And in the face of Shem Havaya, in the face of the infinite, we are insignificant, mamish. Not a little value, of no value. Bittul b'mitzias. Now, but having said, we learned till now. Shagam Shem Havaya d'Makalis Avos. That even Shem Havaya, notwithstanding its grandeur and infiniteness and Hutziva v'Nivroyo, and its V'derech HaMeil, and Hashem is not nitzvus, not grasped in His creation. The will wants it, it comes into being. Nonetheless, we said before, Behechrech, Shagam, so since it's a mocker, Behechrech, perforce we must conclude, Shagam Lagabe Shem Havaya, Shetzvis Mokem Nivroyim, even in the face of Seviv Kalam Shem Havaya, it's not true to say that it's absolutely of no significance. You produce this and nothing else. You produce this. You will this. So therefore, the bittul is not absolute.
What's the creation of that from you? It just happened?
Because he willed it. He willed it into being, and it comes into being.
So then what's the then Malach is also will?
No, because Malach al-Almin is a likus invested in the intimate way, expressing of itself. Chesed has certain properties. So chesed is expressive of itself, many tzimtzumim, the net result is water. And Gevurah produces fire. So the divine revelation is invested and works as it were. Now the tzimtzum, no, we didn't get there yet. Now the tzimtzum, this property, it's a whole talich, a whole process of Hashem's investure in the end result, producing the creation that He wants, Taka. But the elikus, the divine that's invested in creating creation, is an investure, an intimate and personal, as it were, investure. Shem Havaya says, there's a rock, so there should be water. And be'emes, from Shem Havaya alone, water could have come into existence. It could have, with all of its properties. Just because I want it. Hashem didn't want to create that way because he wanted that we should have a relationship with him and he should be invested in it and we should appreciate Shem Elikim, and it's a whole ladder of divinity.
What's the difference in the result? Shem Elikim could have created this way. What's the difference? Why is it less invested? Why is it less invested? The result is the same.
Is that what he's saying at the beginning? He is invested through Shem Elikim, and Shem Elikim is manifested.
No, but
I'm saying save it in its own right now. Let's say, what's the difference in the end result? What does that mean? Derech Mamela, that there's a world.
So that would mean that creation and its relationship, if it was no Shem Elikim, Hashem chose not to use Shem Elikim. So creation in its consideration of its source would be only one result. If they're going to consider your source, bittul b'metzias. He doesn't want that. He wants it should be bittul hayesh, and then work from bittul hayesh to bittul b'metzias. And bittul hayesh is only possible when we consider and because the fact that in producing me, Hashem has manifested these attributes that I have the same parallel and condensed them and limited them, etc., and produced me and the stone and the water. As we'll see in the Maimon thing, the big yechid is Hashem Elikim. Just to do that at all. And then it says and go from Atzmos to creation also. What if I just put Atzmos and creation? Why not? Why not just do that? This whole business of Hashem Havaya, Hashem Elikim, Atzmos, Nisava, because there would be no relationship. Not a relationship of Bittul Metzias, not a relationship of Bittul Metzias is it's a consideration, the mind is entertaining the infinite, the vastness, and therefore it engenders that level of Bittul, starting with, and that's what he wants, a relationship of appreciation.
He could have wanted it that way as well. He could have wanted that creating directly from Atzmos, and we have some sort of relationship.
Okay, so then, true, they was just killed Yochel, but you can't explain that. You couldn't explain it. You couldn't explain the nature of the relationship. Yeah, unless you want to say Hashem can make it an illusion. But you couldn't explain it. And Hashem wants it to be, his desire is real and honest. So real and honest, he got, starting from the bottom, David chooses to get down and involved in creation on a level where his creative investure, we're made in that very image. So there's an appreciation and understanding. My seichel, I have chachmai, I have bin and das. Where does this come from? Because Abish has chosen to manifest these attributes.
And that's not Shem Havaya.
That's Shem Elikim. That's Shem Elikim. So this is Bittul Hayesh, which it has to start from. The beauty of Bittul Hayesh is that I can appreciate the godliness of my body, of my seichel, of all of the properties of the world. It's Bittul Hayesh. Bittul Metzias is all of these wonderful things in the face of Shem Havaya, which is the force behind Shem Elikim. No, but it's not that we're dismissing Shem Elikim. It's a deeper, you should know that this whole investure of the Eibishter that produces this world that you're made in his image, the Eibishter revealed that the force behind that is Shem Havaya, in the face of which we're bottled by Metzias, because in the face of the infinite. But that bittul b'metzias is rich and valuable when it comes first as a result of bittul hayesh. And the bittul hayesh never departs, because he wants us to appreciate that the properties of the world, the way they are an expression of godliness. And then to appreciate that the creative force behind this is b'derech hamela, it's infinite, and in the face of that, we're bottled the metzias. It's a multi-level relationship. Now, in the face of Atzmos, now finished. So Amit is a bit lo dafka after there. We should look at Hard of 49. We don't have time for it now, but Hashem will do it. So with the Amit is a bit lo dafka lagabe Atzmos saying so, but since Sevav Kalalman is soft called soft, It's a source. It's the source of creation. In other words, there's a definition to Sefer Kalam. Definition is it's an infinite power that can create at will. It's a definition. Atzmos is no definition. It's not an infinite creative power, creative force. Atzmos decides to manifest himself in Sefer and manifest himself in Shem Elikim. It's all a decision of Atzmos Yisborach. But Shem Havaya itself, it is a creator, an infinite creator. It has a function, it has a definition. Shem Elikim is the invested artist, where every stroke on the canvas is deliberate and invested in expression of something within the artist, in a very intimate way. You might say that just the desire to be an artist, that's the parallel of Shem Havaya within the person. Not a particular, but just the desire for expression, for self-expression, in whatever. At some level where it could be anything. It doesn't have to be this or that or the other. Yeah, where Hashem manifests His will, there should be a creation. But as mentioned, the Eibishter could have created creation, stopping there with let there be creation. But there would not be a bittul hayesh, would not see within the details of His creation, the divine. The whole relationship will be about the surrender of creation, the bittul, the surrender of it. Hashem wants engagement, both engagement and bittul. To look at the sunset and see godliness, not through it, but at it. To look at the details of creation and see the divine. And that whole meditation is Shem Elikim, the Shem Havaya, and Atzmos is Bechira. What happened here? Atzmos is Bechira to manifest this infinite power of creation, and moreover, to then invest himself in the minutiae of every detail of creation, and to deceive everything there. Shem Elikim and Shem Havaya and Atzmos. The truth of it. Now he's speaking about the bittul. So the true bittul is in the face of Atzmos, where he's beyond the infinite creator and beyond even being a source of creation. That's where there's the true bittul. But therefore, in the same way that we described in the heart, the etzem, the kudus halev, totally transforms the nefesh habahamis. Likewise here, in order to negate absolutely shleitiyanis and smokim liyeshes, never mind bitl yesh, but even bitl the metzias is still the level of yeshes there, because it's bottled legabe a source which is a creator. So if your creator produced me, yeah, it could be anything, but me is some value. I'm the result of your creative ability. True, everything is equally the same result. And it's b'derech memela, but that's what you produced. So subtly there's still some mocker. Bittul b'metzias is still talking about something that's bottled. But the true negation, dafka degil, that's what says is dafka through Atzmos, and there, in the face of Atzmos, looking at creation and recognizing the truth of it, it's all b'chiras Atzmos. So then what? It's beyond bittul b'metzias. It's just you. This whole thing is your choice that it be. There's no reality at all. Not bittul hayesh, not bittul b'metzias. The only reality is a likus.
Is that possible? Because it's the creative being recognizing that. Who's recognizing this?
We got this. Chassidus came along and revealed this to us. We're talking it. And if we're talking it, and if it's being expressed to us, it means it's a truth. It's our truth. Could be our truth.
But it's the created being recognizing that truth. Something recognizing that truth.
Yeah, so that's endless, the endless struggle. As I mentioned to you, the highest levels of Ava similar is when you're not aware that you have the Ava. If the person is considering his madrege, where he's holding it, he's stuck. The ultimate is the truth, and not even my awareness of the truth, just the truth. Yeah, it's happening here. Okay, these are wonderful, wonderful, beautiful levels. But the fact that the Chassidus is, the Rebbe is saying this Maimon to us, means on some level it's shaykhs. But to have the gauge, how am I doing? That's it. Then that's ruined it all over. There's no gauge. There's no barometer. It's the Avodah. Come on. Lost in the Avodah. That's the answer. Let's finish the Perek. Zeh Masha Kosev. This is what the pasuk says. Shall have no other gods before me. This is Anochi speaking, Atzmos. The true Panai is not the Pnimis of Shem Elikim, but the true Pnimis is Atzmos in Sof Shalamayim Avai. I see that the Maimon is going to go is that the real Avodah is in the Chetzenius Alev. That's the real Avodah is. It is not escapism. Okay, escape, Atzmos. Come on, walk around mindless and just the whole Avodah is dafkin the Tachten. The Tachten should engage in all this truth on our created level. We are created Yesh and Metzias. So it's the Yesh that entertains, to whatever level it connects to deeper and deeper truths. But it's got to be all grounded here, an intimate relationship with God in the here and now. Let's see that in the ensuing chapters.